In this video, you're going to be looking at clue words and translating expressions. So in other words, if I give you a written sentence with words, could you interpret what that means as far as your operations go in math? So this isn't going to be an all-inclusive list, but it's definitely going to give you a good idea of thinking about words in word problems and just simple sentences and how they translate into a math problem. So for addition, you obviously have the easy ones, add and plus. You have sum. You have increase. So if you're increasing temperature, you're increasing your bank account, all of that is adding to it. You have all together. So if you're looking at something among 5 different people and you're figuring out how much all together, that would indicate an addition problem. You have more. You typically sometimes see that with the word than, so you would say I have more than, or how much, more than something. And we'll talk about the word than in a minute. Total. Combined. So similar to the altogether, but combined also means addition. And then you also have perimeter. So to find the perimeter of any figure, no matter how many sides it has, you're just figuring out what is the distance all the way around it, which means you're just going to add up all the sides. Moving over to subtraction, we have subtract and minus. You have difference, so finding the difference between two things is looking at subtraction. We have less. Again, you sometimes see that paired with less than, and we'll talk about than. We have decrease, so just like increase was addition, decrease would be subtraction. And then these are probably the most important ones. So if you see how much higher, how much lower, how much more, and how much less. Notice the rhythm there of the how much. So it doesn't matter if it says how much higher or how much lower, you're still looking at a subtraction problem because you're trying to figure out if the one temperature is higher than the other. It doesn't matter. You're still trying to figure out the difference between the two. So that sometimes when we see how much higher is point A than point B, we think, well, it said higher, so I would add those. But because it says how much higher and the how much is in front of the higher or the how much is in front of the more, then that changes it to a subtraction problem and finding the difference. So these are very important to understand, that it doesn't matter, any combination of those 4 mean subtraction. Your answer ones are in here, and we'll get to more of that when we get to equations. Multiplication, you have multiply, obviously. We have product. We have of times. And we'll get to of more with percentages and fractions when we look at 2/3 of something or 50% of something. The of is indicating the multiplication of the fraction or the percent in the number. If you double or triple something, that is indicating multiplication. Again, if you double something, you're timesing it by 2. If you triple something, you're multiplying it by 3. We see that a lot in baking and making recipes, if you have to double a recipe or triple a recipe, those sorts of things. You also have area. Now, area formulas do vary depending on the shape, unlike perimeter, but within area, you should be doing some sort of a multiplication problem within the formula. And then these are just notation. So if I see 2 parentheses around and then the n, or even if n was replaced with any other number, if there's nothing in between that number and the parentheses, So this is indicating multiplication, so that's just a notation. And then also I could do away with the parentheses if it's a variable that's attached to a number. So 2n would be 2 times n. So those are good to know just as we move forward. And then lastly, division. So we have divide. And we have quotient. That's typically one that we often forget means division, and we think it is multiplication. Average, now you will have to add first to find the average, but in the end you have to divide to figure out what's the average among certain test scores or individuals. If you take half of something, you divide it by 2. Per, we'll get to per more when we look at rates, so miles per hour or dollars per ounce. And then this is one that you see a lot in word problems, but it doesn't necessarily spell it out as far as split equally. But if ever you're reading something and what you want to do is take a lump sum of something, whether it be a lump sum of money or a lump sum of candy, and you're trying to put it into goodie bags for your child's birthday party, you want to figure out, well, I have to put the same amount of candy in each bag. So that would be dividing the total amount up into these individual bags. So if ever you want to split something equally, that in your mind should trigger a division problem. Now your turnaround words. These are important to study and to practice. So your 2 turnaround words are than and from. Now these words, than and from, have to be paired with another clue word. So in other words, it would say more than, or less than, or subtracted from, or divided from, those sorts of things. So in front of the clue word has to come with one of these clue words. But if ever I see that it says more than, more means to add, but than tells me to flip the order. So in other words, I'll give you an example down here. So if I say 4 more than 5. When I go to write that out, the more tells me to add, but the than tells me that the 5 has to come first, the 4 comes second. Just like if you saw, I'll erase this, just like if you saw 4 less than 5, well again, less tells me to subtract, 5 has to come first, 4 has to come second, and the order here matters. If I do 5 minus 4, which is correct, I get 1. But if I do 4 minus 5, I get a negative 1, and those are very different. One is a positive money amount, the other one is a negative or a debt. So we have to make sure we're looking for these clue words. All right, let's do some examples here. So this first one says 12 more than a number. So our clue word here is more. There is a turnaround word, than. So I know I'm going to add, but then this has to come first. So a number, I give it a variable. You can give it any variable you want. I'll do n for number, and then the 12 comes last. So n plus 12 would be the correct answer for that because of that turnaround word, than. 2, the quotient of a number and 9. So your clue word here is quotient. There's no turnaround word, there's no than or from, so I leave it in the order it sits. So quotient means to divide, a number, 9 second. 3, 4 times a number cubed decreased by 7. Okay, so this one has quite a few. So we got times, cubed is important, and decreased is important. So we got 4 times, and notice there's no turnaround word. So 4 times a number cubed. So 4 times a number cubed. Cubed is to the third power, squared is to the second. So cubed is 3, squared is a power of 2. Decreased by, so that'd be subtraction 7. Now I'm going to rewrite this, so this isn't correct. 4 with a dot times sign isn't wrong, but just like we did in the clue word sheet, I can remove that multiplication sign because 4n cubed tells me the same thing. So I'd like to see you start to get to the point where you can write like that. Okay, all right, let's look at 4. So 15 less than a number squared. So we got less, and squared is important because that represents a power. So, but there also is this clue word. So I know I'm going to subtract, but then this back part has to come first. So a number squared comes first, 15 goes last. Okay, go ahead and see if you can pause and figure out 5 through 10. Take some time, see how far you can get or what you can solve, and then go ahead and play it, and then you can come back and listen to the explanations. Okay, 5. So it says 3 more than 5 times the number of dogs. So we got more, a turnaround word, and times. So 3 more than, well, that means I'm going to add, but that means the 3 comes second. This 5 times the number of dogs, so 5d comes first. 6, the product of 5 and y added to 3. So product and added are my clue words. So there's no turnaround words, so I put them in the order it's written in the sentence. So the product of 5 and y, that's 5 times y, added to 3. Seven, 4 times the number of cows plus 2 times the number of ducks. So this one's kind of silly, but it gets our point across. So 4 times the number of cows plus 2 times the number of ducks. So there's no turnaround words, so I do them in order. So I got 4 times the number of cows, C, plus 2 times the number of ducks. Now we can't give it C because cows are not ducks and ducks are not cows. So we're going to represent cows as C and ducks as D. So if ever we're talking about 2 different unknowns, not the same things, then we have to give them a different variable. If it would have said 4 times the number of cows plus 2 times the number of cows, we would have given them the same variable. 8, twice the difference of a number and 6. So twice difference of a number and 6. So twice means I'm timesing something by 2. And then the difference of a number and 6. So some of you may have written this. There's no turnaround word, so everything goes in the order it is. So we got twice timesing something by 2, the difference, which difference is subtraction, and a number and 6. So that's what we look like. But here's another clue and another indicator. So whenever I see the, and then a clue word and of, so this could be any clue word I want it to be. So this case, it's the difference of. So whenever I see the and of surrounding a clue word, I have to put it in parentheses. So your accurate answer should have looked like that. So I have to have parentheses around the n minus 6. So if you had those, good job. If you didn't, look for this clue here. Half a number subtracted from 2. So half, that's important. A number subtracted from turnaround word. So I know I'm going to subtract. I know 2 is going to come first. Half a number. So that's n divided by 2. And I'll write it as a fraction. Or if you had 1/2 times n, that would be the same thing if you took half of a number. And the last one, 3 plus the sum of the squares of x and y. So squares are important because that's a power that we have to take into account. No turnaround words, so 3 plus the sum of, again, the and of surrounding a clue word tells me it has to be in parentheses. So the sum of the squares of x and y, so that's x squared plus y squared. So x has to be squared and y has to be squared because it says the squares of, plural, so both of them. Good, so keep practicing, review your clue words, keep it with you, use it as a tool as we move forward, but eventually when you take your assessments, you're going to need to do them without it, so you need to study them, get to know them. It'll help you in many different facets.